There's a lot of misinformation out there, but the reality of it is that it all came together Friday night, like at midnight. I got woken up out of my sleep that this is the fight they wanted to make, and then it was an all night. It was legitimately, I did not sleep after that. I didn't go to sleep till the next night, and it was funny. Hunter didn't go to sleep either. Islam is injured, right? So that fight wasn't something that was a done deal, and then it fell apart. So Gaethje stepped in. It was one of those like, hey, if we can make Islam fight, do you want to do that? All right. If not, you guys can do Gaethje, right? We had our choice, and we said yes to Islam, and we said yes to Gaethje.
He knows the White House cards. Like he knows that they were pushing this for over a year, and it fell extremely short of expectations.
So here's the situation that just went down. Ilia Topuria came out throwing serious accusations at Islam Makhachev, basically saying Islam ducked their fight for the White House card. And this isn't some light call out either. Topuria is going all in with these claims. The way he tells it, he was completely ready to sign on the dotted line for this matchup, like zero hesitation whatsoever. But right when everything looked set and this massive opportunity was staring them both in the face, the whole thing just imploded. What happened next? Islam's injury magically appeared, perfectly timed to kill the fight right when it was supposed to become official. You could feel the anger in Topuria's voice when he dropped this line. Once again, Islam finds an excuse, and this time it's some injury. He went deeper into his side of things, saying he always had this feeling he'd end up on the White House event, almost like it was meant to be. Even after the UFC straight up told him they weren't planning to use him for the event, which had to sting. He recognized it was all part of the chess game that happens behind closed doors. So when they circled back and confirmed he'd be on the White House card, they floated Islam's name as the opponent. Here's what's crazy. Topuria jumped on that fight instantly, didn't even need time to think about it, ready to scrap despite nothing being locked in stone yet. The White House card announcement was supposed to drop the following day, so when he rolled out of bed expecting celebration news, he got hit with word that Islam was hurt. What a way to have your morning completely ruined.
I didn't go to sleep till the next night, and it was funny. Hunter didn't go to sleep either. We were told that Ilia was not going to be on the card earlier that week, right? Then we get a call that said, hey, if we can make a fight, you can fight Islam or Gaethje. We're focused on getting an Islam fight. So when you hear Dana say, well, that was never a fight, it was because it was talked about, but there was no agreement to fight anybody. So then Wednesday I got asked, would you guys want to do this or that? And we said, absolutely. They gave us a number. We said, absolutely not. And then we didn't hear anything after that, right? I'm sleeping Friday afternoon. So Friday night, early, I went to bed. I'm thinking we're not on the card. It's just not happening. They haven't called me. They're announcing they're going to announce it by Saturday. I say that this shit was crazy. It was like they already said, we're going to announce on Saturday the card. 12 midnight, literally 12 midnight till almost 11 o'clock, 11:30 the next morning, right? It was just nonstop negotiating between, I'm on the phone with Hunter for an hour and change, and then I'm on the phone with Ilia for an hour and change. So like, all right, so again, to accurately give the whole thing, I specifically called Hunter and said, do you guys plan on using Ilia for this fight at all in any way, shape, or form? If the answer is no, he's going back to Spain. If he goes back to Spain, right, and you guys call in a month or 6 weeks or whatever for him to fight, you know how that's going to go. It's not going to be a simple negotiation like, I don't know which fight fell apart. I can't call it Islam. Islam is injured, right? So that fight wasn't something that was a done deal and then it fell apart, so Gaethje stepped in. It was one of those like, hey, if we can make Islam fight, do you want to do that? All right. If not, you guys can do Gaethje, right? We had our choice, and we said yes to Islam, and we said yes to Gaethje. It was just more about the numbers.
Now, Ilia Topuria wasn't about to sit around moping after that whole mess unfolded. He completely redirected his energy toward Justin Gaethje, dropping what sounds like a pretty dark promise when you really think about it. He made it brutally obvious that Gaethje is going to suffer the consequences for Islam's pullout from their fight, like he's planning to unleash all that built-up anger and letdown on Justin when they clash at the White House event. Topuria guaranteed it would be over fast, which in fight language means he's plotting to end this thing quickly and violently. But wait, it gets even more heated and dramatic from here. Ilia decided to blast Islam's manager Ali Abdelaziz, who coincidentally also handles Justin Gaethje's business, creating this weird triangle of conflict. Then right on schedule, Justin Gaethje entered the chat. Topuria went straight at him, saying, here we go again, another guy who's going to suffer because Islam ran away. And then he really crossed the line with personal attacks. He basically called both their managers worthless and added that they're ugly as hell too, which is just ruthless and probably crossing into unnecessary territory. But that's how the trash talk game works in mixed martial arts. Then he spoke directly to Justin, telling him "see you at the White House," before making this weird claim about his own character. He insisted, "I'm not the type who likes to embarrass people," which seems pretty contradictory given everything he just unleashed, but then he promised it will be over quickly for Gedvage. He created this image where Justin opens his eyes and it's already finished, hinting at a knockout so lightning fast that Gedvage won't even process what happened.
And the White House card, there's a lot of reporting out of Spain today saying that it was going to be Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, and that fight fell apart on Friday. Well, Justin Gaethje also said like he was told Thursday he wasn't on the card, and then on Friday he was.
That is true.
What happened with Islam, I guess, because you know how fans are, a lot of them.
That's not true, I said.
Sure. So
it was never Islam versus Topuria, yeah.
So anyone who thinks Islam ducked this fight or anything like that, it's all incorrect.
Don't worry about what fights are being made. We announced which ones are made and which ones will be happening. I told you there were some weird circumstances. The reason that fight fell out, and it wasn't up on stage with Mick Hunter and Sean, it was that power slap that the fight fell apart that night. That's how Gaethje ended up on the card. And Topuria wasn't originally supposed to be on the card either. So he got the call too.
When can we expect to see Islam Makhachev back?
I don't know. He's got some hand issues. I know that. I don't know how serious the hand issues are or how long that will keep him out, but yeah, he's injured.
But Islam Makhachev definitely wasn't going to let those accusations hang in the air without firing back. Absolutely not. He launched his own counterattack at Ilia Topuria with a completely different version of what went down, pointing the finger at who he says really avoided this fight. Makhachev brushed off all the insults and social media warfare like they were childish and unworthy of his attention. But then he delivered his own threat that carries some serious menace behind it, warning Topuria that he would eventually feel his fist soon enough, which is basically a promise of future damage in the cage. He emphasized that this fight could go down without any complex deal-making or those massive paychecks that fighters and their teams usually battle over for weeks. Islam Makhachev broke it down simply when he said we both know who really got scared here, flipping the entire narrative and throwing the blame right back at Topuria. He admitted that you can try to hide your fear behind angry social media posts, but he guaranteed, don't worry, eventually you'll get exactly what you're asking for, which sounds like he's promising a future beatdown. Then Islam took his own swing at the management drama, speaking directly to Topuria's team and saying your overweight manager doesn't need to demand billions to get this fight with me, implying that crazy money requests might have sabotaged the whole thing from the start. He closed with this confident declaration, "I'll do it for free," essentially saying he's so sure of victory and so eager to fight that the paycheck doesn't even matter to his decision.
It was amazing. I kind of knew, but I'm not almost crying, but I'm very proud. Promise.
Meanwhile, Ilia Topuria's manager Malki Kawa jumped into the discussion to clear up all the rumors that were spinning around the White House card drama because there were so many conflicting stories making the rounds. Kawa felt the need to explain what really went down backstage, revealing that the UFC originally told Topuria flat out that he wouldn't be included in the event, which had to be tough news to break to your fighter. But then later things shifted, like they always do in the fight game, and the company circled back with the option of matching him against either Islam Makhachev or Justin Gaethje, presenting them with choices for who Topuria's dance partner could be on that huge card.
2 days ago, I got a call and they said, "You're definitely not fighting on the White House card." So I was like,
Wow, really?
cool.
Okay.
And then yesterday I got a call and they said, "You might hear something. You might be on the White House card." And I was like, "How are you going to go complete 180 turn on me?" And then today I found out that I was on it. I didn't know if I was main event.
Ali Abdelaziz, who never stays silent when his guys are getting attacked, shot back at Ilia Topuria with his own response, promising that the real story would surface soon and everybody would discover what actually happened. Abdelaziz mentioned that the holy month of Ramadan provided a temporary break in all this verbal warfare, which holds deep meaning in the Muslim faith and impacts fighters like Islam who practice it. But he made it crystal clear that in 9 days when that observance concludes, everyone is going to get called out for their lies, suggesting he's holding on to proof or documentation that will support his version of events. One thing he said he could guarantee everyone is that Dana White was absolutely right when he said this little short guy, talking about Topuria, wasn't even being considered for the Islam fight. That directly contradicts Topuria's story and throws another wrinkle into this whole complicated mess.
Ilia is one of the greatest of all time. I think he's going to go down as, he knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, knocked out Max Holloway, knocked out Charles Oliveira, back-to-back-to-back, and knocked out 3 Hall of Famers in a row.
And do you think he would beat Islam Makhachev?
It's definitely possible. Those guys, number 1 and number 2 pound for pound in the world, I think that's the fight we need to see next. It sucks because Islam's probably not going to come back down to 155. Ilia going up to 170 doesn't make, I mean, he's not a huge guy. He's definitely, you know, he could be walking around 185, 190. He's pretty thick. So I think that's the fight that I'd like to see as like the White House main event.
On the flip side, Dana White himself jumped in to set the record straight about the Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev situation, because as the UFC boss, he's the guy who actually knows what's happening with fight scheduling. White made it clear that their potential matchup wasn't the fight that got scrapped on Friday, which tons of people had assumed based on all the social media chaos. He revealed that Topuria was never actually booked for the card to begin with, regardless of what might have been talked about or worked out behind the scenes. Dana also confirmed that Makhachev is still dealing with a real hand injury, which backs up Islam's explanation for why the fight never materialized. White stressed a crucial point that fans need to remember, that only fights formally revealed by the company should be considered official, because everything else is just gossip and guessing until the UFC stamps it with approval.
Oh, he knows the White House cards suck. It's like he knows that they were pushing this for over a year, and it fell extremely short of expectations. I mean, he was so upset about it. He was talking about a fight falling out the day before. You know, it's I can guarantee you he's not happy with it either, and he's the one that taught me through example to speak my mind.
Justin Gaethje on his end showed real enthusiasm after his bout with Ilia Topuria got officially confirmed for the White House card, because this represents a huge chance regardless of how the pieces fell into place. Gaethje said he felt honored to be included in the event, which totally makes sense considering the historical importance and all the spotlight this card is receiving. He called the chance an amazing experience that he was pumped to embrace, displaying that fighter's mindset that's made him such a beloved figure throughout his time in the sport.
It was meant to be. It was meant to push us onto the other side. And once they've moved into the streaming model, it's just not about putting on the best fights possible anymore. You know, Dana is legally beholden to the shareholders and to maximize shareholder value. And unfortunately, now that they've taken the reins from the company away from him, it's barely recognizable now. And they need to be saved from themselves. And luckily, I'm here to be their hero.
Gaethje shared something fascinating about how this all played out from where he was sitting, explaining that he was originally told he wouldn't be included on the White House event whatsoever, which had to be a crushing blow, only to discover probably pretty abruptly that he had been added to the lineup after all. The sudden turnaround caught him off guard, which makes perfect sense when you think you're sitting on the sidelines and then suddenly you've got a massive fight on a legendary card. But that shock also ignited his excitement to step into the cage and go to war, because that's what fighters crave, these huge moments on the grandest stages.
I was saying this out loud, and I will still say this, not only to John Jones, but everyone that out there and who's probably in the same situation, because I think most of them are in the same situation. We are not an employee, we are independent contractor. And then we should be able to get what we deserve. And if we don't get, we will be able to have a right to walk away and go look other option. Because the thing now is that there is always like contract tying people up, and then they can get free, and then you want to set free, and then they muscles you up, you know, and lowball you. But I'm happy I'm out of that. That's all what I can say.
There's a vocal part of the fan base that has been disappointed since you left the UFC, ruined your legacy because we haven't seen you fight.
Give me a definition of legacy.
Your lasting memory in the sport, I guess, maybe with his
like who?
Muhammad Ali.
Like Muhammad Ali. Okay, let me tell you what's the legacy. My legacy right now is my kids back home, is my family back home, getting health care, getting security, being able to put food on the table, being able to put roof on their head. That's a better legacy. You can have the Muhammad Ali legacy or whatever you want. If your kid cannot attend to school, he has no place in the society. If your kid doesn't have food in the stomach, that legacy doesn't help you for anything. You cannot go to the store or in the gas station or to the at school and pay the scholarship with a legacy. You have to understand that this is a bullshit that promotion fit fighters, street fighter with, and they're all out there fighting for legacy. Good for you.
Meanwhile, Sean O'Malley threw in his 2 cents on the whole drama, and Suga had some strong opinions about what should have gone down with this card. O'Malley made the case that the fight between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev should have topped the White House card, which is a pretty big statement considering the matchups that actually made it on there. He highlighted Topuria's accomplishments, which are definitely impressive. The guy's unbeaten and holds a title right now, and argued that fans are hungry for this fight to go down. O'Malley labeled it the next massive collision the sport requires, implying that this is the fight that would genuinely grab everyone's focus and give hardcore fans exactly what they're craving to witness.
What do you make about the beef between Eddie Hearn and Dana White?
I think it's very entertaining, and I just think it's good content and good for both of their promotional abilities, and I think we'll see more UFC fighters go and sign with Eddie Hearn, which I think is a very smart move on their part.
On the other side of things, and this is where it gets spicy from a business perspective, Dana White is catching heavy heat for his selections for the White House card, with critics asking whether he picked the right matchups for such a momentous event. And Ronda Rousey, who's always been willing to call out the UFC when she disagrees, didn't pull any punches when discussing Dana White and the White House card controversy. She dropped something pretty harsh, suggesting that he knew perfectly well it disappointed, despite the company's massive promotional push throughout the past year hyping up this event. Based on Rousey's interpretation of things, White wasn't satisfied with how the card came together, which if accurate represents a pretty major acknowledgement given how much marketing muscle and promotional firepower went into this whole production.
Had this new usher of fans who love the product. I mean, the gate was $8.3 million. I don't know what I think the revenue was $8.3 million. I think the attendance was like 19,000 fans, and I'm not sure what the Paramount Plus numbers did. And I always tell Michael, I was like, they're not worried about you as a fan, Michael. They don't give two shits about you. They're not worried about me. They're looking for that new era of audience that they're trying to capture. They're not worried about the hardcore fans, right? The hardcore fans are either going to move on, which I did when it came to WWE, and WWE continues to keep on selling out. And so for me, there's just, you have to take the UFC for what it's worth. Like, I love the thing you just posted. I watched it on YouTube. You said the Lone Karbanoff versus Brandon Moreno. You're like, nobody asked for this fucking fight. And I was like, let me see Luke Thomas cook real quick. And I sat to listen to it. And I was like, you know, at the end of the day, when does the UFC ever make fights that we like? Did Diego Lopez versus Alex Volkanovski need to happen? Do they ever listen to the fans? That's one company that's never listened to the fucking fans. So it's almost like, are they gonna start now?
Rousey pushed even harder and absolutely destroyed the UFC's current path, claiming it has moved way too far from its foundation of showcasing the best fights, which is criticism that strikes right at the heart of what the company is meant to represent. She argued that ever since Dana White pulled back from daily operational control of the business, which happened slowly as the company expanded and added more corporate oversight, the promotion looks nothing like what it used to be in those early glory days. That's brutal criticism from someone who was once the company's biggest attraction and helped transform it into the mainstream juggernaut it eventually became. Speaking of major developments, shifting focus to another huge story that's been brewing, Jon Jones has voiced his anger with the UFC situation and actually demanded that the company cut him loose from his contract, which is basically the nuclear option when it comes to fighter promotion relationships. Francis Ngannou responded to Jon Jones's drama with what looked like real respect and encouragement, which makes total sense given Francis's own messy history with the UFC and his ultimate exit. Ngannou called following the story develop yesterday captivating, which it definitely was if you were tracking it live on social media. He told Jones straight up that if he manages to win his freedom from the company, then he absolutely deserves every reward he has earned throughout his incredible career. Francis Ngannou spelled out his perspective clearly when he said, "Following this story develop yesterday was very fascinating, and I have plenty to say, but for now, Johnny boy, if you manage to secure your freedom, then hit me up." He stressed that Jones has earned that $30 million plus after everything he's contributed to the sport across more than 10 years at the peak, and that the UFC should be treating him like royalty instead of getting into these ugly public battles, respecting him like the icon he is rather than creating all this unnecessary drama. Daniel Cormier also offered his viewpoint and compassion for Jon Jones, which is pretty remarkable considering their complex past as enemies who battled twice and had serious bad blood between them for years. DC said it was obvious how badly Jones wanted to compete on the card, and you could see it in his social media activity and statements. Cormier described him as heartbroken, stuck in bed, and completely destroyed by the lost chance to be part of this historic moment. DC broke down his thoughts when he said, "I actually felt sorry for Jon because it really looked like he desperately wanted to fight on that card. He looked heartbroken, he's stuck in bed, and he's completely destroyed." Cormier dug deeper into what this situation means for Jones's career, describing it almost like a reality check moment where the truth finally hits. He explained that at 28 or 29 years old, regardless of what you did as a competitor, you had power and the company needed you. He brought up when Jones got that entire event canceled with the jail situation years ago, and they claimed he'd never headline again, but since he was moving pay-per-views at such a high rate, they had to come crawling back eventually. But now Cormier suggested at 38 or 39 years old, Jones has serious hip problems and injuries stacking up, and it seems like he's headed toward retirement, whether he wants to face it or not. DC's evaluation was pretty harsh, explaining it's basically like you're not going to bring value to me long term, so the UFC doesn't believe they need to bend over backwards for him like they once did. Francis Ngannou revealed even more about why he publicly backed Jon Jones in this mess, thinking back on his own journey after exiting the UFC and how brutal that entire experience was. Ngannou emphasized that fighters shouldn't be stuck in contracts that restrict their choices and stop them from maximizing their money-making potential and career possibilities. He demanded they deserve respect from the companies they compete for, which has been his constant message since his own departure and transition to boxing and PFL. On the other end of this debate, Jake Paul, who's been pushing himself into MMA conversations more frequently, recommended that UFC fighters could gain from checking out opportunities outside the company, instead of remaining loyal to an organization that might not appreciate them correctly. Paul predicted that more athletes would decide to team up with Eddie Hearn and compete in boxing or other promotions, describing it as a brilliant move financially and professionally for fighters who have influence and brand recognition. Former UFC champion Demetrius Johnson also blasted the UFC for moving its attention away from dedicated supporters who constructed the sport into what it represents today. Mighty Mouse claimed that the company is chasing a younger generation of viewers, which makes financial sense but creates problems. He said they're abandoning the passionate fans in the process, making it obvious that the dedication and intensity of the original supporters are no longer important for the organization as it attempts to expand into different markets and audiences. So that covers everything from today, and we really hope you enjoyed breaking down all this controversy and drama around the White House card, the Topuria versus Islam mess, and everything developing with Jon Jones and the current direction of the UFC. Drop your opinions about the Ilia versus Islam drama and the White House card in the comments, because we want to know what you think about who's being honest and whether the correct fights are getting made. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content covering all the newest updates, controversy, and battles in mixed martial arts, because the story never stops and there's always more drama to analyze.